Welcoming you on a Thursday evening, this is Primetime News. I'm Salima Shimwefeleni Masipa. We commence the bulletin with Labour Matters. Public Service Union of Namibia Secretary General Matheus Haikuria has expressed disappointment in the National Housing Enterprise Board members who have failed to reach an agreement on the demands of their employees. Emilia Kambuta is tracking these developments and filed our lead story.
On numerous occasions when the union asked to meet the board for the board to explain its decisions, the board up to now refuses to meet the union, flatly refusing to engage the union or the workers in any form. Now, the board has indicated that they will agree or consider the demands of the employees only when the financial position of the National Housing Enterprise improves. The question that we were left with yesterday is, when will the financial position of NHE improve so that we can submit our demands? Obviously, there is no answer because it's a decision of the board, and the board is not interested in talking to the union. So we do not know where should we get the answer from.
The current power outages in neighboring South Africa have sparked political opinions, with Popular Democratic Movement calling on the Ministry of Mines and Energy to address the crisis, fearing that Eskom might cut off Namibia's power supply. Once more, Emilia Kambuta compiled this insert.
PDM on Wednesday released a statement saying that the beleaguered South African government is aiming to make it legally possible for it to break the existing contracts with its neighboring countries in order to provide a certain amount of electricity to themselves. The ruling ANC on Monday declared a state of national disaster in South Africa to provide a legal platform to deal with the energy crisis. Namibia produces about 40% of its energy requirements, while about 60% is imported from neighboring countries through the South African power pool. Public Relations Officer of the Ministry of Mines and Energy, Simon Andreas, told Nampa that the ministry is fully aware of the power crisis faced by South Africa, and there was no communication received from South Africa to Namibia regarding electricity. Andreas explained that the Namibian government has a contract agreement with South Africa, and the contract is solid enough as a guarantee that there will be a supply of power. He emphasized that the ministry is looking at alternative ways to increase the production rate so that Namibia reduces its reliance on countries such as South Africa, Zambia, and Mozambique. Reporting for Nampa TV, I'm Michael Madimba.
Moving on to a rather unfortunate incident. A couple at Okahanja was arrested and charged with the murder of their 2-month-old baby girl who was allegedly discovered dead at a house in the early hours of Wednesday. Our Oshodonjupa regional correspondent, Mulisa Simiasa, filed this story.
The Namibian Police Force spokesperson in the Oshodonjupa region, Inspector Maureen Beha, in an interview with Nampa on Wednesday, said the deceased was identified as Monica Blessing Swartboy. Beha said it is alleged that the 31-year-old mother of Swartboy and her 32-year-old father were wrestling each other over the baby by pulling and pushing one another while both holding tightly onto her. The incident had taken place at the couple's house in Promised Land location at Okahanja around 2200 hours on Tuesday. She added allegedly the father wanted to take the baby with him while the mother did not want to allow him. Beha noted after the couple allegedly failed to agree, they fell asleep. At approximately 400 hours on Wednesday, the mother wanted to breastfeed the baby but discovered that her baby was not breathing. Beha says since bruises were allegedly visible on the body of the baby, both parents were arrested and are expected to appear in the Okahanja Magistrate Court on charges of murder. Police investigations into the matter continue.
Still on crime. Police in the Kavango East region on Wednesday arrested 2 men aged 20 and 30 years for allegedly breaking into schools and churches around Rundu. Sawi Hausiku, our Kavango region's correspondent, filed this report.
The Namibian Police Force Acting Kavango East Regional Commander, Deputy Commissioner Bonifacius Kanyetu, during a media briefing at the Rundu Police Station on Wednesday, said the suspects were arrested in the Ndama residential area during Operation Boots, which was carried out in the festive season. The affected schools and churches are Kasote Combined School, Nakazaza Combined School, Sikanduko Junior Primary School, Rundu Private School, Ngove Primary School, the Catholic Church and House of Prayers. Some of the items the police recovered at one of the suspects' houses include printers, a generator, cell phones, a TV set, pens, erasers, keys to various school classrooms, microphones, cameras, as well as staplers. Kanyetu issued a stern warning to others committing similar crimes that Operation Boots will not stop, but will be applied every time there is need to do so. He said there were fewer incidents of street robberies in December due to the operation. Reporting for Nampa TV, I'm Michael Madimba.
When we return with the business segment, we look at the benefits of the relaunched SME Economic Recovery Scheme. Welcome to the business segment. The Bank of Namibia earlier today relaunched the SME Economic Recovery Scheme in the capital. Let's have a listen in.
We have provided relief to commercial banks, which made it possible to provide loan repayment holidays and other business assistance, resulting in a coverage of more than $1 billion. Yes, we hear that there's no new cash that was in the system, but giving relief amounting to about $1 billion was also necessary. As is clear, these measures and others may not be sufficient to save all SMEs from the brink of closure, especially in the face of dynamic and externally driven factors beyond anyone's control. As a result, we have repackaged the COVID-19 SME loan scheme to address the unique challenges SMEs face in the post-COVID-19 and ongoing geopolitically tense environment. The crafters of the relaunch scheme are gathered in this room, namely the arm of government directly involved with the scheme, the Ministry of Finance and Public Enterprises, the Bank of Namibia, and various participating commercial banks, namely Bank Windhoek, First National Bank, Nedbank, and Standard Bank Namibia. We are still negotiating and finalizing discussions with the Development Bank of Namibia and hope that we can get them into this net. I say relaunch as the original scheme was launched more than 2 years ago in November 2020 to assist SMEs buckling under the weight and pressure exerted by the ripple effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. The primary aim of the scheme then was to provide funding to qualifying SMEs, to cover costs, to provide working capital, to preserve the sector and provide some solutions to the challenges that they are facing.
Moving on to some agribusiness. Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform, Kale Schlettwein, recently announced that the Vungu Vungu Dairy Project was recently awarded to a joint venture of private operators. The minister revealed that 3 other schemes, namely Ndongalinena, Vungu Vungu and Orange River Irrigation Project, are all at the adjudication stage.
At the same time, the land resettlement policy is revised to inject secure conditions for ownership and productivity obligations, thus enabling real empowerment and, at the same time, improved productivity on that land that is so shared. Effective utilization of the green schemes through leveraging private sector participation. In this regard, I'm pleased to inform that as a part of the policy decision to put the schemes in sustainable utilization through leveraging private capital, the Uvungu Vungu Dairy project was recently awarded to a joint venture of private operators. It's a joint venture between a Namibian and Indian entity, with the Namibian having the majority shareholder. 3 other schemes, those are Ndonga Linena, Uvungu Vungu Green Scheme, and the Orange River Irrigation Project, are up for adjudication. While the remaining 3 schemes, namely Sharigongoro, Sikondo, and Itunda, have not yet been advertised and remain with the ministry.
That's where the top news ends for this evening. The economics roundup is up next, followed by the weather forecast. Welcome to the world of sport on Sport Planet. Champions League football headlines the segment. The Battle of the Giants awaits in less than a fortnight from now as Paris Saint-Germain will host Germany's Bayern Munich in Paris. The focus, however, is on Paris Saint-Germain forward Kylian Mbappe, who suffered an injury scare ahead of the epic square-off as he hobbled off with a thigh problem against Montpellier on Wednesday. Mbappe was replaced after 20 minutes and was seen clutching his left leg following a collision with Montpellier's Leo Leroy, a worrying sign with the first leg of the last 16 tie against Bayern on the 14th of February. The French star had earlier missed a penalty as Benjamin Lecomte denied him twice after Mbappe was allowed to retake the kick, having seen his initial attempt saved. PSG then lost Sergio Ramos to a head injury later in the first half. They were already without Neymar for the trip south, with the Brazilian suffering from muscle fatigue. Staying with football, Tottenham manager Antonio Conte on Wednesday revealed he was already feeling better after undergoing surgery to remove his gallbladder. The 53-year-old Italian, who was diagnosed with an inflamed gallbladder, faces a spell away from the dugout after a medical assessment decided an operation was needed to ease severe abdominal pain. After the operation, Conte is set to miss several matches while he recovers. His assistant, Christian Stellini, is set to stand in for Sunday's match at home to Manchester City. Stand by for your sports roundup. With the sports news, we've come to the end of tonight's newscast. Many thanks for tuning in. Do catch us tomorrow for this week's last edition of Primetime News. From myself, Salima Shimwefeleni Masipa, and the collective behind the scenes, it's good night.